Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Abigail. Before I start, I just wanted to say thank you for 7,000 plus subscribers. And if you're new to this channel and you like the vibe, you like what's going on here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like the video if you like what you're seeing. And we're going to be bringing you more and more of all this good stuff. Today's video is going to dive into all the unexpected admin and costs that come up when you decide to start a limited liability company. Why am I doing this video? Because I know I did a video before about buying a property in a limited liability company, and I also have another video which I'm linking around this video somewhere, which talks about the regrets I had when I bought my property. So then I had a number of people reach out to me to say, oh, they're thinking of buying their first property, they want to put it in a company, can I help them out with it? Do I have any other tips that I want to share with them? And all that stuff. And I thought it would be good to do a little bit of a deep dive into all the surprises that I have faced when I started a limited liability company here in the UK. Because I attempted to buy a property in a limited liability company, and there are so many surprises that have come up that I feel like nobody tells you until you are stuck in it. And then before you know it, you're spending so much money, which is eating into your profit, or you are missing deadlines, which come with fines and all that stuff. So without much ado, let's get right into the video. Now, so I'm going to start off from when you even just start filling the form on the company's house website, so the gov.uk website, to register your company. The first thing that I noticed was something called the SIC code. What is the SIC code? So the full definition is Standard Industrial Classification Code. It's a 5-digit number used by Companies House and HMRC to describe your company's main business activity. Every company in the UK must choose at least one SIC code when they file their first confirmation statement or at the time of incorporation. So why does this matter and why do you need to get it right? It tells the government, banks and investors what type of business you run and helps with industry statistics and regulation. So certain SIC codes that you may click on may flag you as needing some licenses. For instance, if you, let's say, are opening a financial services firm, you need some extra licenses to continue that company. So you can't get the SIC code wrong. If you do, there is a way that you can go back to the system and change your SIC code when you're doing like a confirmation statement or you want to change some information. You can do that. But you have to understand the business that you're trying to do, for which you're creating a company for, and get the SIC code right. I'll just give some examples here. So for example, in property, let's say you're opening this company for your property business. When you are doing buying and selling of own real estate, so like let's say you buy, you renovate, you flip it, the SIC code I see here is supposed to be 68100. Also, if you're doing, maybe you're buying and you're renting out, so there's another one that says 68209, which is other letting and operating of own leased real estate. So you need to do some research to see which SIC code is suitable for the kind of company that you're trying to do or trying to create, and make sure you click the right SIC codes. Otherwise, you might have some bottlenecks down the line when you're creating a bank account, when you are filing some regulatory stuff, because they might think that you require something more and you actually don't even require those things because you just chose the wrong SIC code. The next thing that I want to mention is address. So when you're starting a limited liability company and you're filling the form, you need to have a registered address for the company. And this is going to be shown publicly on Companies House. So some people who don't know about this usually put in their home address, which most people think it's not advisable to use, because then anyone who can Google your name can find out your home address and come to you, which is not safe. So most of the time, some companies offer virtual address systems. I will put a link of some of the companies that I've used in the past. And also, if you use some of the links that I put in there, I may get a commission if you use my referral code. But one that I know that provides virtual address is First Formations Company. So you pay a year's amount, or maybe monthly, for them to give you an address. So when you get letters, the letters will go to them, and then you can choose a service where they scan the letters and send it to you via email, or a service where they can post the letters to you. So that becomes the official address on your company when you're registering the company. The other thing that you need address for is for the directors and the persons of significant control. So every company needs to have shareholders, or however you choose to have your company set up, but there always needs to be a director. So both of them, or these two types of people in your company, need to have addresses, and those addresses will also go publicly on Companies House. So what you need to think of is, do I want my home address to be publicly on Companies House, or do I have an office address where I've already rented out my place? Maybe you're starting a coffee shop or whatever, so you already have a place where you've rented out. You don't have any problems when it comes to this. But if you're maybe working from home, you're starting your own property business, you're starting your own small, business at home, then you might need a virtual address, which comes at an additional cost that you may not have budgeted for when you thought of the fact that you want to start your own company. The next thing that you will face, or you would see when filling the form, is shareholding. So who owns the company? The shareholders. What is the structure of the shares? How many shares are you issuing out? And what is the value of the shares? You need to figure all those out. Who has voting rights attached to their shares? So majority of the time, you need somebody who understands what they're doing to start or to form the company for you. An accountant can do so for you, and I know some companies out there who can help you figure out how to structure your shareholdership when you're starting your small company or maybe your big company. But you need to know what you're about to put it in the right form and represent the Companies House the right way, rather than just putting in any numbers there and thinking it'll sort itself out because you just want to have a company structure to put maybe your property that you're buying in there, or maybe something that some small side gig you want to do, you want to put in a company structure because you think it's a bit more tax efficient. The next thing after you fill the form that you need to be mindful of is, now that you are a company, if you are the director, if you are a person of significant control, you need to do some regular filings to Companies House and other important bodies here in the UK. The first one that I know of is a confirmation statement, which is due annually. So it's a confirmation statement to Companies House to let them know if anything has changed in your company or if everything is still the same. So who the director is, who the persons of significant control are, who is doing what, who is a company secretary. You need to file to Companies House annually to inform them of any changes or if it's still the same. The other thing is annual accounts. So this is usually due 9 months after the company's year end. And annual accounts are usually done by accountants. So when you get to the end of your first year, you need to file your accounts and pay the right taxes. So because of that, you would have the additional cost of having an accountant who knows what they are doing to file your company account and show your profitability and show all your income and expenses and let you know what taxes that you are liable to pay to the government. Usually, if you fail to file these on time, they could result in fines and even to the extent of a strike-off from the company register. The next thing that I want to mention is VAT and PAYE compliance. If your turnover passes £90,000, you need to register for VAT, and it is compulsory. Sometimes you can voluntarily register for VAT, and that is also not just a simple process. You need somebody who knows what they are doing if you don't understand VAT to help you register for it and start filing for the VAT. Now, the onus is on you to check to make sure that your turnover has exceeded £90,000 within a year. And if that happens and you do not register for VAT, you could face some prosecution or some fines. So if you're offering a service, if you're offering a product, if you're not paying for VAT yet, now everything comes into your business for you to now allocate towards expenses and profit. But now if you are paying VAT, it's either you are topping up plus VAT or you are working the VAT into the cost of your product. And if your product is a competitive product, you have to work it in so that you remain competitive on the market. So the other thing I mentioned was PAYE, pay as you earn. So let's say you decide to pay you yourself as a director a salary, or you decide to pay other people that are working for you a salary. You now have to operate PAYE and you have to pay national insurance. So all of a sudden, just the fact that you're trying to pay yourself or other people you're working for, you now face another tax, if I can put it that way, or another responsibility to pay national insurance and taxes when you're paying out incomes. The next thing I'll mention, which might be a surprise to you because I got a surprise letter, is ICO. So ICO fully means Information Commissioner's Office. Many new company directors get a surprise letter from them, and this is what this is all about. 1. The ICO is a UK regulator for data protection and privacy. They enforce GDPR rules in the UK. So by law, many businesses must register with the ICO and pay data protection fee. You'd basically receive a letter from ICO when you start your company at some point saying, hey, we think your company processes personal data, so you might need to pay us. So the ICO data protection fee actually depends on the size of your company. Now, the question is, oh, do I have to pay it? Where is this coming from? Are they even legit? You must pay it if you process personal data. So you collect, store, or use information about people. So let's say, for example, you are selling your product online. People are filling a form that gives you their address and their bank details when they process payment. So now you have some personal data. You know their address. You're sending the goods to their address. So you now have to pay ICO for data protection because you're keeping customer information. You're running an e-commerce website. You're holding tenant or employee records. So let's say you have a company that you buy property to rent in and you are handling rental yourself. Now, because of that, because you're not giving it to a real estate agent to handle the rental, you need to pay ICO for data protection because you're holding tenant and employee records. If you do not pay ICO or you do not comply with what they are requiring of you, you could end up with a fine. The fine usually starts around £400, so be mindful not to ignore the letter when it comes in. The other point that could catch you off guard when you start your own limited liability company is business insurance. Now, when you are thinking of your nice new idea, you've started your business, you think you're going to make money, the last thing you're thinking about is all the costs that come when you start that business, but they will creep in on you if you don't pay attention to it. So what are the types of business insurance that you may be required to sign on for and you have to start paying premiums when you have those insurance? One is employer's liability insurance. Is legally required if you employ anyone. So it covers compensation claims if an employee is injured or becomes ill because of work. The next one is public liability insurance. So this covers claims if a member of the public is injured or the property is damaged because of your business. The third one is professional indemnity insurance. So this covers you if you give professional advice or services that cause a client's financial loss. The next one is product liability insurance. So if you manufacture, distribute, or sell products, you have to cover claims if your product injures someone or damages property. The next one is property or contents insurance. This usually comes with landlords. So this covers damage to your office, stock, or equipment from fire, theft, and flood. And if you work from home, check your home insurance to make sure that it allows for business activities as well. There's another one called business interruption insurance. This covers for loss of income if your business can't operate due to an insured event. And there's another one called directors and office insurance. So this protects company directors if they are personally sued for decisions made in their role, example, mismanagement or breach of duty. Some of these insurance could run between £60 all the way to £1,000 a year just to insure for these things. The next thing I'll talk about is your business bank account. So when you're creating your business bank account, you could usually come across this question that asks about whether you are an active NFE or a passive NFE. What is this about? So NFE means non-financial entity, and that cuts across for most ordinary companies. The other option when you're not an NFE is you are a financial institution. So a company that mainly deals in business or financial services like banks, investment funds, insurance companies, custodians. Those are financial institutions. So if you are not an FI, which is financial institution, you are usually a non-financial entity. Now, under non-financial entity, there are two types, active and passive. Active is most trading companies. So you sell goods and services, you have staff, you have turnover from business activities. Now, passive NFE are companies that most earn passive income. Example, investment holding companies where most income is from dividend, rent, interest, and royalties. Now, all of a sudden, if you're trying to create your property company, you fall under a passive NFE because, let's say, with your structure, you're just trying to buy property and rent it out. So your main means of income is rent. From research that I did, I found out that when a bank asks about NFE, they are checking whether your company is a financial institution. Now, if your company is a passive NFE, so let's say you started a property rental company, there is an extra compliance burden for all the banks to do to make sure that it's in line with regulation. What are the risks? So passive NFEs often hold property or investments. Banks see them as higher risk for money laundering and tax avoidance since income is not from active trading. For that reason, banks sometimes scrutinize them more closely, asking for source of funds, proof of rental income, property deeds, shareholder ID, etc. Now, do some of these banks avoid passive NFEs? That is the impression I got. And from my research, it says that the mainstream banks, example, Barclays, Lloyds, NatWest, HSBC, they accept passive NFE companies, but the onboarding takes longer and requires more documents. They may ask you for personal tax residence information of each shareholder. Now, challenger or fintech banks like Tide, Monzo Business, Starling, and all those ones, some don't allow property investing or holding companies at all because they don't want the compliance headache. So I noticed that when I was trying to open a bank account with some of these fintech banks, there was a period where they just said they're doing their compliance checks. It took so long. And then they came back and said, unfortunately, we cannot offer you a bank account. And I was like, what's going on here? Like, there are so many people who are creating companies just to, buy property. And why does it seem so difficult? So after doing this research, I realized that there's some compliance there. And in the end, I ended up going with a mainstream bank. The next thing I want to talk about is accounting and accounting software. That is another cost that may come up when you create your company. So as I said, sometimes even filling the form is difficult because you don't understand most of the terms on the gov.uk website. So maybe you even need an accountant to fill the form and start your company that way. But aside from that, when your company starts operating, you need to be doing your bookkeeping. So if you don't have any information around how to do your accounting bookkeeping, then you need an accountant to sort that out. An accountant will slightly charge you more to do the bookkeeping for you. The other thing is, most accountants will require for you to get an accounting software like Xero, like QuickBooks, to be able to put in your transactions for them to be able to do your bookkeeping for you. And so you would have to now start paying a monthly amount to Xero or QuickBooks or whoever you're using to do your daily bookkeeping. Sometimes, in addition to that, some banks can give you auto feed into these bookkeeping platforms. And when they do that, the banks will now start charging you additional for your monthly banking fees. The last thing I would mention is a will. So when people are starting companies, sometimes they're so excited. They're thinking, oh, I'm going to start my company. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to make money. But they forget that you need to protect yourself against things that are unforeseen and things that you don't even want to think about. So let's say you've created your own property business. You are the main shareholder. You are the only shareholder. You are the only director. What happens if you pass away? In this case, you probably have a mortgage for your properties that you are renting out that you need to keep paying monthly. You probably have tenants that are living in there who you've signed a contract with. What happens? Who takes over? You need to have a contingency plan if something goes south in that manner. So sometimes you need to work with a professional to work on a will, to work on a successive plan if things go south, if you pass away, if one of your partners or shareholders pass away, so that you can continue the business and it just doesn't become stale because we don't know who is in charge of the properties now, or it just goes to your wife and your kids who are not even ready to manage, if let's say you have a property business, are not ready to manage a property business. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please share with a friend who can find it helpful as well. And also